Noon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, everywhere, depending on where and when you are joining Africa Online. Well, it is a gorgeous Sunday afternoon in my neck of the woods. What's it looking like in your neck of the woods? The first message arrived like a polite knock that I did not invite. Hey, we should grab coffee. Edward always said, we should always hang out. I recognize the name, but not the person. It's one of those orbiting faces from large gatherings with the background noise, and you don't really remember the person. But they are a friend of your friend. However, you and that friend are no longer friends. But someone that you met via that friend still wants to have a relationship, still wants to develop a friendship with you. You don't know if you should or not. Is it proper? Is it not? Is it polite? Is it showing disloyalty to my friend because now we're no longer friends? We're going to talk about inherited enemies today. Does that person who used to be your friend and you develop relationships with people because of them, do they now become your inherited enemies? Or is it safe and okay to have a relationship and a friendship with those? Welcome to Africa Online TV. And we're, as I said earlier, going to talk about inherited friends. At this time, we're going to have our, excuse me, our editorial of the day from our co-host, Professor Nia Song. How are you today, my brother? And what's it looking like in your neck of the woods?
At 78 degrees, warm or rather hot, yes. And we are feeling comfortable. I just came from outside. I was almost sweating, and my grandson said, Grandpa, don't run. You start sweating. I said, okay, don't worry, we'll get inside. So we came inside, and here we are. Greetings and welcome to Africa Online Media Corporation. Yes, it is the 10th month of the year. It is October. October is the 10th month, yes. It is both in the Julian and the Gregorian calendars. Whatever they did to have two people have calendars, we don't know. Well, it is commonly associated, that is, October is commonly associated with the season of autumn in parts of Europe or Northern Europe, the Northern Hemisphere in general, and spring in the Southern Hemisphere. Today, Sunday, October 5, is the first Sunday of this month, and it is the 278th day of the year 2025. That leaves us with 87 days to go, 87 days in 2025. Today is the 40th Sunday of 2025 on the 41st week of the year 2025. It is the 14th day of fall. Ambassador, it is the 14th day of fall. That means that we still have 87 days before fall sits its place to winter. This 5th day of October is World Teachers' Day. So if you can read and write, and if you can read and speak the language I'm speaking, other than your own language, then of course, an educator, called him or her a teacher, was there to help you acquire that skill, reading and spelling and things like that. Today is also National Do Something Nice Day. So please be nice to each other. Do something nice, whatever it is. National Do Something Nice Day teaches us that, quote, spreading kindness, one small act at a time, brightens hearts, creates connections, and makes the world a happier, more beautiful place, isn't it? Yes, of course, that is the end of the quote. So doing something nice today invites us to consider, among many such things, many other things rather, such personal health benefits as have been helpful to people who have lived through earlier than us, people who have done their part to make sure they live good lives, good, happy lives. So there are people who have seen their stress hormones reduced, people who have seen their blood pressure lowered, and people who have significantly reduced their levels of depression. Have you done any of those? You better start. These lifestyle improvements help the individual increase their lifespan because they live happier, calmer lives. Do you? Please take an initiative. Studies have shown that people who give of themselves in kindness report greater life satisfaction, improved self-realization, and improved mood and lower incidences of depression. So please, it is to your advantage to live happy, calmer lives. This calls on all of us to take a look at our lifestyles with a view to improving those lifestyles. Such lifestyle improvements lead us out of the temptation of making enemies, which is the subject of this October 5 discussion, friend or inherited enemies. As our co-anchor mentioned a while ago, that is, I'm repeating her, inherited enemies is our topic of discussion this Sunday, 5th of October. In the beginning was Satan, enemy to and of the word, a creation with an ego too full of itself, taking sides with the negative and being able to eschew every good deed that each other person did. Nowadays, we hear of perceived enemies or political enemies. Then we hear of frenemies. It was invented about 5 years ago. And today, inherited enemies. Is it just language use, or are these actually all these categories of people? Or are there actually these categories of people who glory in taking sides in a conflict or dispute wherein they are not directly involved? Such people are known to get sentimentally involved for one or more reasons: bloodline or family relationships, tribe or geographical location, same association or cult or religious inclination, and or community or neighborhood in which they live. An enemy is a foe or an individual or a troublemaker that is considered as forcefully adverse or threatening to the regular order of things. An inherited enemy seeks to maintain strained relationships, emotional turmoil and stress, leading to bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness. The wages of such behavior of attitude are death, and death in a state of unforgiveness is pitiable, very pitiable. So, eschew enemies of all kinds, especially inherited enemies. It is in your best interest to do so. We now turn to the chair of AfricaOnline Media Corporation, Her Highness Dr. Pam Famanu, to introduce or to welcome all of us to the discussion. Not introduce this time, but welcome all of us, because we are the guests and we are the hosts of this edition. Thank you. Reverend, are you with us?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nia Song. It's scary that we have just 2 more months to go to the end of this year, and the year just started. So thank you again on behalf of AfricaOnline Media Corporation. I want to thank you for your faithfulness. I want to thank Ambassador Lisa, who, in spite of challenges, she's here. And I see our beautiful sister Debbie on. Yeah, we've tackled this topic before, inherited enemies. I don't remember the last time we did it, but this is not the first time. But I just want to draw, and let me also welcome our viewers who are watching live on YouTube and those who are going to watch on Facebook. I just posted it on Facebook. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have come across this adage that says, or the phrase that says, rumors are started by haters, carried by fools, and believed by idiots. You know, it's been on social media for a while now, and I just looked it up. It said it was attributed to a Paul Soho or Ziad Abdenoor. And the truth is, these inherited enemies, there's a correlation, because if you are inheriting somebody's enemy, it means you are a fool or a hater or an idiot. Because if somebody hasn't done anything to you, why should you hate them because Jane Doe doesn't like them? It means you don't even have a mind of your own. And let's put a spin on this thing. Okay, let's say somebody does, John does something to Jane, and Jane dislikes that person. Jane may have a leg to stand on, even though we are supposed to forgive and let go. But if Jack decides to inherit Jane's enemy, you, Jack, don't have any leg to stand on because John didn't do anything to you. He did it to Jane. And what people fail to understand is that you don't know if last night Jane got on her knees and asked God for forgiveness, or if even John, the perpetrator, got on his knees and asked God for forgiveness. You're not there. So you now are the one who is hell-bound, not the perpetrator. And if you notice in the Lord's Prayer that we all say, we can all recite, that's in Matthew 6, from 9 to 15, as well as verse 12 and 15. Verse 12, I believe, says, "Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us," which means you are asking God to forgive your sins based on how you forgive the person who has trespassed against you, which in 15, it says, if you don't forgive that person, God will not forgive you. But let's just assume that it did not say that you should forgive them if they apologize, which may seem unfair. You understand what I'm saying? Because there are some people who are repeat offenders. They step on your toes, you forgive them. Next time they will step on your head. But the point I'm trying to get across is that you should not dislike somebody because somebody else disliked them. It means you are a sheep. It means you are a fool. It means you don't have a mind of your own. Because and sometimes some people do it, then the two people who are loggerheads become friends. Now you are the one who is left out in the cold. So I always say there are three sides to every story: his side, her side, and the truth, which only God knows, because people's perceptions are different. I don't know if I've said this on this show before. I had an employee a few years ago who was so angry with me for 2 weeks, I didn't even know. I had asked her to, because I'm a mover, and I do things, I get things done. And when I ask somebody to do something and they're taking too long, I'll just do it myself. So I'd asked her to pull up a medication. It was a blood pressure medication called enalapril. And it was taking her a long time to find the medication. So I just told her, I said, don't worry about it. I went and pulled it myself. I said, don't worry about it. And I shook my hand, I was like, don't worry about it. For 2 weeks, she grumbled and complained that I told her I did this hand. I didn't know that there is something like talk to the hands. That's how I found out. I did not know. So she was angry that, because we Africans, we talk and we use our hands just like Italians, not as bad as Italians. So one of the texts came and told me, I just burst out laughing. So I called her into my office. I'm like, this person said that. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, when I did that, I said, my dear, you should have saved yourself 2 weeks of agony. I said, I don't even know what talk to the hands mean. That's how I found out what that meant. I said, I was just telling you, don't worry about it because I already did it myself. I don't like, I get things done fast. So she felt so stupid. I said, what? You could have just asked me. And that's where cultural intelligence come in. We're not talking about cultural intelligence today, but she did not realize she was Latina. She did not realize that, that's how we speak, I was trying to say, don't worry about it, and she took it to mean something else. But I'm saying that, okay, if she went and grumbled to other employees and another employee decided to be angry with me, now we have resolved the issue. That other employee will be the one left in the cold. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, and there are people that if they don't like you, they inherit other people not to like you. It's happened to me, especially in the community, and nobody is gonna blackmail that community. Blackmail don't work for me. No kind of blackmail work for me, because nobody is indispensable. No human being gives you oxygen to breathe, except if you're a patient in the hospital and then they have to put you on oxygen. But my thing is, there's nobody who is indispensable. God is the only one. He's the one that breathes the breath of life into you. So people, in this world, we really need to be careful because our time on this earth is not that long. You cannot go through life hating people. And sometimes people hate you not because of what you have done, it's because of your gifts, because of your anointing, because of your beauty, because of the way you dress, because of the house you live in, the car, because they want to be like you. And they can't be like you. Instead of learning, they just start spewing poison. People who don't even know you. One of my cousins told me that she was on a flight from DC to Cameroon with another Cameroonian lady. They were sitting next to each other. The lady didn't even know her. They started having a conversation, and this lady was spewing out poison about her. My cousin, not knowing that the person she's talking about is the person sitting next to her. So my cousin just listened. She had to apply self-control until when they arrived Cameroon, she decided to introduce herself to the girl and say, by the way, I am this person. And the lady almost collapsed. She didn't even know my cousin, but the poison she was spewing out about my cousin was incredible. Sometimes people can talk about you when you hear,
Wow.
you will not even recognize the person they're talking. And there are people like that in this world, and we really need to be careful. Me, I live on zero expectation principle. I make up my own mind about people. Most of the time it works, most of the time it does. Sometimes it doesn't work because somebody will want, oh, don't even work with this person. This person is this and that. I said, let me experience my own. I said, thank you for the advice, but
Right.
let me, because you don't know what grudges they have against that person. And another times, when it's somebody of the opposite sex, they don't like that person because maybe they try to go out with that person and the person refused and they just despise that person's God. It's happened a lot. So we need to keep that in mind. Don't inherit anybody's enemies, period. Don't carry that monkey. Let them carry their own monkey. But I'm going to yield my time, to maybe Sister Debbie or to you guys. So that's my take for now. Ambassador Lisa, it looked like you wanted to comment on what I said before we move forward.
No, I want to comment. Excuse me. No, I was agreeing with you, but there was something that Nia Song had said in his editorial. He was say, I believe he said that the word frenemy has come to light in the last 5 years. Is that what you said?
Frenemy, frenemy, frenemy.
Yeah, frenemy has been come to light in the last 5 years. Well, I looked up and saw that this is a term, that the history of the word, this term was first in print in 1891.
Okay.
Was the first time that this term frenemy. Now, I agree with you. I've only heard this term recently in the last maybe 10 years or so, but this word first came out in 1891. It was in a newspaper article about a diplomat, and he was saying something of some legal matters they were handling, and they were talking about not being put in the hands of his frenemies. And then
Thank
in
you very much for that.
Oh,
and then in
really?
19,
Yeah, thank you
yeah,
for bringing that
Wait,
up.
Ambassador Lisa, you said which year?
18.
1891.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I
And then
am so proud of you. This is the first time that somebody is correcting me as well.
No, it's
no, I'm
okay.
not, I wasn't
Okay.
correcting him.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no, but it's
saying.
good. No, it's important. No, it's a correction. It's
Yeah.
important. But can I
Yes.
just say something? All right. Well, maybe I'll be the one coining this. So why don't we call those people that used to be enemies and are now friends? Why don't we call them NF friends?
Inner friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the British have to accept that first.
No, they don't have to accept that. They are not my supervisor. The British don't decide what is called. I am making that name up, NF friends, if it doesn't exist. Ambassador Lisa, so you can check it out. So if
Inner
it doesn't
friends.
exist, you heard it from Africa Online today, from Reverend Dr. Pam from NF friends. All right, Ambassador Lisa, continue.
So in 1953, the word was actually used again, calling the Russians, first calling the Russians our frenemies, somebody that we are friendly with, but we also have this enemy type of behavior or situation going on. So the Russians were first called our frenemies. It was called by an American gossip columnist in the Nevada State Journal. So Russia, while they look like they could be our friend, they're really a frenemy. So I thought that was interesting. I had already looked that up and I was prepared to share that. And then I heard him say that this term first came to light in about 5 years ago. And I was like, whoa, wait, I want to add
I
to
think what I
that.
really intended to say was it became popular.
Okay, it became popular. I
Yes.
knew I heard something. I said, let me just add that little tidbit because it's important. Also, with some of the words that we do use, we need to know where these words come from and how they came about
Yeah.
and why we use them. So we're talking about inherited enemies. I personally don't believe in having enemies. Um, I just have people who maybe are not a right now person in my life. Maybe, I believe that we meet sometimes people and we don't click right away, but I don't toss them off to the side. I don't throw them away because it's not a time, it's that's not a set time. Sometimes we meet people ahead of time and we have to go our separate ways. We mature, we grow, and then when we come back together again, we are a different person. I could use, for an example, my son and his new wife. My son got married yesterday, and he was sharing how he met his wife about 10 years ago. And they had a mutual like for each other, but it didn't come into a relationship. They each went their own separate ways, their own separate lives. And about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they came back together, met each other again, and they had matured and now they begin to walk into a new different type of relationship. So, and I often preach that it takes 20 years to understand the purpose of a friendship. You meet someone and you don't know what that relationship is going to be. You don't understand the purpose of it. But as you grow, you walk together, you separate, you go your separate ways, you come back. After 20 years, you will have known the good, the bad, and the ugly in that person. And you will have understood what the purpose of that relationship is for. I still have friends in my life from elementary school. I met a girl yesterday at the wedding. She walked up to me. I did not remember her, but she said we used to be friends when we were in elementary school. And here she was, a member of the church that my new daughter-in-law's family is from. So I don't believe in making enemies. And I'm like Reverend Pam, I make up my own mind about a person. And when you have friends and relationships and you meet your other friends or their other friends and you begin to develop a relationship with them because they have something going on and no longer speaking, does that mean that you are supposed to no longer speak and have a relationship with them? I don't believe that because you develop your own relationship with them. Even with my exes. I don't believe I should not talk to their mothers or their children because we are no longer together. We have developed our own friendship and relationship. So I don't have any enemies. I don't have enemies. I don't burn bridges. I always keep that door open where if you need to come back or you want to come back and you want to apologize or I need to apologize, that bridge and that door is always open for you to be able to come back. So I don't inherit other people's enemies. And near son, one thing God said to me once was that I deal with the offender and the offendee. Everybody else who's offended, I have nothing to do with them. I'm only dealing with the two people who are offended. And oftentimes, your friends and your family get all involved, throw their little 2 cents in the mix. And God said, I'm not dealing with any of those because this is none of their business. I'm only dealing with the person who was offended and the offending. I will deal with their hearts. You have no right and no business getting into that mix. So keep your mouth shut, keep your opinions to yourself, and let them work it out. And you continue your relationship. And your relationship with the other person does not have to always bring in your conversation with that other person that they are mad at. If you've developed your own relationship, you can continue that relationship without having to bring up the offended person or the person who they're enemies with. I don't allow that. You cannot come. I know how to compartmentalize very well. You can't talk to me about my friend. I may talk about my friend, but you can't talk about my friend. And if you two are no longer speaking, we have multitudes of other things that we can talk about that do not involve bringing up that particular person. So, how do you handle your frenemy situation?
Well, I don't have that situation. It's temporary. It is just happening at the spur of the moment. We may disagree, but in the long run, we agree. And whether you like that person or don't like the other person, that is none of my business. I keep you if I find you interesting enough to be my friend. We're friends and we deal with each other at that level. It's spontaneous. So I don't care whether you are my friend's friend or not my friend's friend, my friend's enemy or my friend's not my friend's enemy. I just accept you for who you are as I see you. And no matter how rude you may be, I know that there are those moments in life when you tend to say things out of tune before you realize that I should not have said that. And I do not ignore your regret afterwards or your apology for saying what you said or doing what you did. I accept you for who you are as a human being. I know that along the road, we may need each other in one way or the other.
Who was that just came in? Deborah, I know I saw you a minute ago.
Deborah was on the screen, but
yes, Debbie, we're talking about.
I see her, she needs to unmute.
She unmuted. We're talking about our inherited enemies. Do you have inherited enemies or frenemies? And how do you feel and handle your situations where your friends are no longer friends with your friends and they want you to be mad at them as well?
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lisa, and thank you, Uncle Niason. That's a very good question. I will say growing up, there were so many of those things. If you grew up in the African community, you had friends in primary school, in churches, or in play groups out in the community. You always hear, "I toxic, eat toxic, I toxic, them toxic."
What?
That
I said you said
that is so funny. Please translate.
Because
I thought she was speaking in tongues for a minute.
Ambassador Lisa, it just means you have you say that you're with a friend, you have a conversation, and the next thing is a third party comes up and say, "This is what you said." By the time it gets to the fourth person, the message has 4 different versions.
Oh, sure.
And the original version is nowhere to be found. It's only the distorted versions that are circulating. And I learned from that time that the best way to handle such frenemies is to stay away from those people or those sort of toxic environments. Because to me, as a kid growing up, it just made me so anxious and trying to make sure I'm heard that what I meant is not what is currently circulating, and very unsuccessful. So I chose as an adult not to be part of it. How do I deal with that? If it happens, and it has happened a lot, I stay away from it, give it some time. I call it a cooling off period. And when that time elapses, I will get back to the individual and say, well, this is the situation. Now, where do you stand? You want to continue this relationship with me, or you want to divorce me for XYZ reason when you fully know I'm ignorant? We either have a dialogue or we don't. And it has happened a couple of times, and I chose to just stay in my corner, and I found peace by so doing. Those who managed to come back actually realized, oh, it wasn't the right thing to do. And I realized that. So I'm sorry, it's because of XYZ. And I misunderstood you. Or we go our separate ways and stay. And we had never, personally for me, I never lacked friends. The existing ones are there. I have friends from birth. We grew up together. We still communicate, and those who choose to stay, we stay together. Those who choose to take the highway somewhere else, so be it. But I do not force the way I used to try when I was in my younger years. I just accept individuals for who they are, and I hope they do accept me for what I am without being too judgmental about my opinions in everything in life. So basically, I stay away from trouble, and I do not say anything that I know will hurt somebody, because I do not want someone to say anything that will hurt me. But if I do say something that hurts someone's feelings, I always ask for forgiveness and I move forward. Thank you.
Amen.
Back to Sydney.
Yeah, may I just say something real quick?
Mhm.
Sister Debbie, you're right. In this world, nobody is indispensable. And long time ago, it was one of the Kennedys, I don't remember which one, that said they made up their mind to stop listening to bother about what people say. This was more than 30 years ago, and I adopted that. You can never please people. No matter what you do, if you are kind, they will criticize you, or you want to show off. If you are generous, you want to show that you have money. If you are stingy, oh, that one is so stingy, they won't part with money. If you are tall, you are too tall. You are short, you are too short. You are fat, you are too fat. You are thin, you are too thin. No matter what you do or whatever you are, people will find something to criticize. So you cannot. Me personally, if you think I did something to you and you don't bring it to my attention, guess what? I am not going to ask you. I don't have that kind of energy or time. There are only 24 hours in a day. If you don't bring it to my attention and you want to tell the whole world except me, be my guest. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to live my life worrying about, oh, why is this person frowning at me? I'm not going to do that. I'm not, especially if you're an adult. I'm not going to do that. If I step on your toes, let me know. I will apologize.
Right.
Maybe I didn't even step on your toes. Maybe it was something else that stepped on your toes and you thought it was me. You know, and there are people that have this implicit bias. And if they have a wrong pressure or this inherited enemies thing because somebody came to them and abandoned Nia song to them, every time you see Nia song, what is ringing in your mind or your ears is what that other enemy said, what that person doesn't like him said, and you start perceiving things that don't even exist. It's amazing that the human mind, people don't understand. Your mind is the center of your reasoning, your emotion, your thoughts, your will, your feelings, and that's where the enemy, the devil, operates. It will put so many things in that mind, things that don't even exist, because his work is to divide, to destroy. And they are just people that have called themselves to be dividers and destroyers and distributors of hate and evil. There are people like that. I was telling somebody the other day, this person has given me free rents in their mind. I'm on
Yeah.
their mind 24/7 and I'm not paying any rents there, and that's their headache. I don't have time because there's nobody renting space in my mind. So you cannot go through life worrying about what would these people say. Forget them. You can never please them. Human beings have insatiable and insatiable demands. You can never please human beings. So please yourself and please God and let that be.
Yes. Yes. You know, uh, something that's what unforgiveness does. You
Yeah.
taking up space in you letting people take up space in your heart, in your mind, in your
Mhm.
life
Mhm.
because you don't want to take the chance or you don't want to put forth the effort necessary to find out why you stopped speaking to me. Why are you offended by me? Did I say, like you said, I don't know if I said or did anything. We have our cultural differences. We just don't know. But we'd rather just err on the side of, you know what, forget them. I'm getting rid of them in my life. And what I discovered, Reverend Pam, is that the enemy knows. I tell people all the time, the enemy was there at creation when God was creating you. He knows what your purpose and your destiny is supposed to be. And if
Mhm.
I can throw a monkey wrench in you, in there and keep you from discovering who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be and who's supposed to connect to you in year 3 or year 5, you will never make it to year 20 to find out how that person is supposed to impact your destiny. So it's so much easier for us to just kick them to the curve and not deal with them. But you're only shortchanging yourselves. You're only messing up your future, your destiny, and your purpose by not connecting and working out those situations that are so easy to say, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
I
Let
didn't
me just
understand.
add something, Ambassador Lisa, what you're
Mhm.
saying. It is so funny because there are people that lack emotional intelligence. They don't know how to manage their emotions. They make
Yes.
everything about them. they can't accommodate other people's emotions. I'll give you an example without saying any names. That there may be somebody that thinks, or somebody said or thought I did something to them, which I did not. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They did not say anything to me. They went around spreading false rumors, having an attitude, think I would approach them. Heck no. I am not going to nurse your self-inflicted wounds. It's not going to happen. Not me. You are not my God. You are not indispensable in my life. But in this situation, when you ignore the person you are there focusing on what you are doing, and the person keeps building on that nonsense emotion, thinking anything you do or say has to do with them when it doesn't, and it keeps snowballing in their mind, and they kept trying to get your attention. Nobody's going to get my attention with negative energy. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. It's not going to happen because I don't have room for toxins in my life or negative energy. So sometimes when you ignore these people, it gets on their nerves, and they keep building and double down on their self-inflicted wound and making it seem like they're a victim when it has nothing to do with them. You understand what I'm saying? So there are people like that. We just need to be careful. And if you start trying to nurse those self-inflicted wounds, you will spend the rest of your life doing that. You cannot please people. It's amazing how people don't know that what those kind of things are part of witchcraft. You're trying to control and manipulate people. You cannot. Nobody's responsible for your emotions, not even your spouse. You are responsible for managing your emotions. Even identical twins cannot help each other manage their emotions. I just wanted to wait. So there are people like that. Don't let everybody live their life they want. I am not going to go around asking somebody, "Oh, why are you frowning?" I don't have time to even pay
You're
attention
not
while
going to
you're
ask people
frowning.
what? I'm sorry. You're not going to ask people what?
Go around finding why you're not talking to me or
Oh,
frowning.
okay.
If you're not talking to me, I will not even notice because I'm so preoccupied with what I'm doing. I'm not even going to notice that you're not talking to me. If I say hello to you, you don't respond, I move on. I'm not going to ask you, why didn't you respond? That's on you. It's not on me. But your conscience is clear, your heart is clean, you move forward. They are just, you've heard the statement that misery loves company.
Yes.
People who are miserable cannot stand to see people who are happy. They cannot. So I think Dr. Crossley is on.
Yes. Dr. Crossland, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah,
Welcome.
hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Hey, hi everyone.
Dr. Crossland, we're talking about inherited enemies and frenemies, and what was the new word you created? What's the word?
Any friends?
Inner friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Crossland, being in the spotlight like you are, I'm sure you have had your share of frenemies, inherited enemies. No?
No, don't assume. No, ma'am.
Wonderful.
I I I go by what God says, and that's just how my mom raised me, or else I wouldn't be able to have peace. But when Jesus taught me what peace is, I was amazed. It wasn't what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read it in his word, I'm just amazed. Like, I learned so much from him. Like, recently I learned that there were 70 disciples, and I was like, okay, I remember the 12. And
Mm-hmm.
then I learned, someone had told me about the commandments. Oh, if everybody would follow the commandments,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I read in Numbers 8 how the commandments is personal. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so when I went back to share with the person who told me about if everybody would follow the commandments, I'm like, well, people think they are following the commandments. And he's like, oh, no, they don't. And I was like, yeah, they don't know. And that's what Numbers 8 said. God says it. He says, if people don't know. Well, and it's just all kind of people. So it just depends on what we're talking about. So, like sometimes if a doctor goes in a patient's room, like when the doctor came into my mom's room, and my mom want to ignore the doctor, like, no, I'm not going to listen to that. So, and I wanted to talk to the doctor so I could look it up on the internet. Then they said, don't. Then my mom was like, don't use the internet. just ignore it. So I think it just depends on the situation. It depends on the person. And if a person really wants to grow in Christ, I don't really think it's so much on this level, but I just think it's on a, you grow and you go from glory to glory to glory. But it's what God says, not what I say. Thank you.
Well, wait, Dr. Gloria, because I think you maybe misunderstood me. I'm talking in reference to you being out in the public, you're Miss Senior Virginia world.
I understood you. What
People have probably said things
I
about you. You've
No,
heard
I
things.
don't I
No,
don't know anything about that. I heard you.
okay. Well, then
I
you're in a
heard
good
you.
place.
I am
Amen.
such a person of peace. I don't even entertain anything that's not of God because it's not about me. It's about his kingdom. And I am sold out to him, body, mind, soul, spirit. I love him that much, but only he can do this for me. And I don't expect for someone else to understand it because it's personal. And I'm just here to help and to learn, and I am learning, but I'm not part of what I used to be or could be. I'm just part of his kingdom. And it's not going to make any sense what I'm saying because it's all spiritual. Because I'm just sold out to him so much. I I'm just drunk right now. And it's not the kind of drunk y'all think.
No, you're
Okay.
Amen.
drunk with him. Good.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, that you cannot live your life trying to please people, because you will never please human beings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would never please human beings. There are people that get killed because they are kind, because they are good, because they are generous. And then the ones that are tyrants are still alive. Nobody goes after them. So you just have to live your life, please yourself and please God, and make sure you're not locking up anybody in your heart,
In your heart
so you
or in
can
your
sleep at
mind.
night. But let's see what Debbie has to say.
We just talked to Debbie. I
Oh,
want
we
to,
just talked. Okay.
yeah, we talked to her first. So the definition that I found for frenemy is it's a word. It's a combination of two words, friends and enemies, that
Mhm.
refers to a person with whom one is friendly despite a fundamental dislike or rivalry, or a person who combines the characteristics of a friend and an enemy. So,
Well, let me just say something, Ambassador Lisa.
mhm,
I think it just depends on who put that on the internet first. Because when I first heard frenemies, that was years ago, it was somebody that used to be your friend that is now your enemy. So there's more than one definition of it.
okay.
Yeah. So I think that maybe that one is not online, but I think it's just, it just depends on who puts stuff online. But when I first heard the word, I was told it was somebody that used to be your friends and now is your enemy. And that's why I said somebody who used to be your enemy and now is your friends, we should call them enemy friends.
Inner friends. So it's also an abundance of very close, intertwined relationships, but we're talking about inherited enemies. And inherited enemies are those people who uh, your friends think that you should no longer be talking to, or
Exactly.
in
Mhm.
relationship, or have a relationship with the other person or the other people. Like I said earlier, once I begin to develop my own relationship with you, just because you and the person who introduced me are no longer friends or talking to each other, doesn't mean that I should drop you because they are no longer
Exactly.
or you. That's an inherited enemy. And that's not what God is calling us to do. He's not calling us to live inheriting other people's enemies. As I said earlier, he deals with the offender and the offending. So, uh, one of a very good example for me is my in-laws. Once I was divorced, people was like, "You still go to your mother-in-law's house? You still go to, doesn't he come with his new wife?" I don't make any enemies. As a matter of fact, when my ex-husband got ready to get married again, he brought his new wife to me for me to meet her and to get my opinion, both naturally and spiritually, of her before he made a decision to marry her. So yes, I can. My mother-in-law receives me, even though she's passed. My mother-in-law received me continually as a daughter. So did my father-in-law, my sister-in-laws, and my brother-in-laws. They still to this day. I am their
Good.
sister. I am their sister. My children are their nieces and nephews. We did not cut off a relationship because me and their son were no longer in a relationship. We had developed our own relationship. They developed a relationship with me, with my children, and it was no sense of that's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be done. You just need to understand the purpose of relationships, the purpose of who these people are in your life and why they are in your life. I ended up being not my mother-in-law's caregiver, but I ended up being the closest person to her. I sat with her, I ministered to her, I showed
Mm-hmm.
up at the hospital and brought communion. I'd come to the house and bring her flowers. I would come and read to her. And it was such a joy. And I was so grateful that and my ex and I are still very best friends. We're
Good.
we're still best friends. He can call me if he need me. He know I'm the first person that's going to come to his rescue because I believe in being friends, and that's where some people mess up. They don't become friends first in their development of their relationship. They may jump into a relationship and they move right into lovers. They move right into a sexual or a romantic type of relationship without being friends. But when you become friends first, then you move into something else. You can always fall back on being friends first. And my mother-in-law
Exactly.
she happened to be one of the what they called them back then, NTAs at my elementary school. So,
What is
but
NTA?
a non-teaching associate.
Oh,
They were,
okay.
yeah, they were the people who worked in the school. They weren't teachers. They kind of helped the counselors out. They helped the
Mm-hmm.
teachers out. They were those extra people in the school. And she happened to be one of the NTAs in my elementary school. And here we are years later. Of course, her older children and we went to school together, so we still had that relationship. And that probably could be part of the reason why our continued relationship worked because we had already had relationships
No,
before.
no, but Ambassador Lisa, it's not just that because
Hmm.
it's just because of the kind of person you are and the kind of person they are. Because there are people that went to school, they've known each other, but because either a marriage did not work or a relationship did not work, they decide to hate the person and inherit the other person's enemy,
Yeah,
like you are saying. And
you can't
there
live
are
like that.
situations where somebody introduced you to a friend or a spouse or a colleague or a relative, and then they fall out with that relative and they want you to stop communicating with that
Right.
person to
Hmm.
inherit their enemy. And when you don't, they blacklist you. And these are all manipulations. These are all control. You cannot, people's feelings are not light switch. Because you are upset with somebody, you don't get to control
You do
how
not.
two people you introduce interact. You don't get to control that. The fact that you introduce them doesn't mean you get to control their relationship. I'm talking about personal, I'm not talking about business. Business is different. But I'm just talking about a personal relationship. If you knew me through somebody, that doesn't mean if you fall out with that person, I have to automatically cut off that person. That doesn't make any sense. People's feelings are not light switches that you turn on and turn off.
That's right. So, how do you handle your inherited enemies in business? That's a whole nother level. I don't
Yeah,
have a business, so I can't talk about that, but we're going to ask Reverend Pam, who had a business, who had several business and has several business.
well, this is the thing. It depends on the situation. If that person stabbed you in the back or stole from you, you don't need to continue doing business with them, but you should not expect your friends to stop doing business with them because
Hmm.
maybe your friends are less trusting than you. Because well, I don't trust people that easily anymore. But sometimes the reverend gets into the business and interfere with the businesswoman, and he would let the reverend would make the businesswoman do something that may not be too wise, business wise. For example, giving someone a loan and they don't pay back. which has happened multiple times, you know. And I have so much. If I tell you how much money I have out there, people owe me, you would think something is wrong with me. And it doesn't seem like they're gonna ever pay. So I've let it go. But and that's something that the Reverend will get in. And these loans, I did not make them sign a contract. You know, I did not, but there were large amounts of loans. But but in those cases, I don't even consider them enemy. I just don't do business with them.
Just won't do. That's right. Won't do business alone anymore.
In a couple of cases, at least one of them still calls and make promises that are empty promises. The others, they don't even, you know, communicate, which is fine. That's between them and God, you know, because the money I gave them really helped them out of a bind. And in one case, somebody was losing their home, you know, and I rescued it for it. They still have that home, but they've not paid a cent. But so you let it go, you know, in business, you let it go. You cannot have somebody else inherit those enemies, you know. And like me now, I don't do, I mean, there are different kinds of partnerships and businesses. There are alliances, there's joint ventures, there's teaming agreements. I follow the path that is least intimate. You know, when I say intimate, I mean where you're not married to the person business-wise, like a relationship where everybody maintains their identity and you guys can share profit. So nobody, you don't share in bank accounts or giving somebody access to your bank accounts. Yeah, I don't do those kind of business partnerships anymore. I don't. Whatever partnership I'm doing with you, it'll be an alliance. You have your own identity. I have my own identity. When the business goes through, we share the profit and there's no entanglement.
I'm looking at a quote here. Sigmund Freud said of himself that an intimate friend and a hated enemy have always been indispensable to my emotional life. Not infrequently, friend and enemy have coincided in the same person. Have either one of you or any of you here on the panel had that situation where a friend and an enemy happen to be the same person?
Well, in my case, they were an undercover enemy. I did not know they were an enemy until later on. Nia Song is laughing. They are undercover haters and undercover enemies. And these are the people that will pretend to be your cheerleader. At night, while you are sleeping, they are wishing you all kinds of evil. That has happened to me. It has happened to me at least 3 times. So I don't really bring anybody near my zone of privacy anymore, because that in my case it was undercover haters. But God exposed them, and I'm glad He did. That's what has happened to me. Undercover.
Undercover. Friend and enemy in the same person, and you just don't know it.
Yeah.
I'm also looking here, and I found that there are different types of frenemies. Now, this Nia Song is something I did not know. I always assumed that, you know, if a person was a frenemy, they were just a frenemy. But there are different types of frenemies. There's the competitive work frenemy. The person you're working with. I was just watching a movie, one of my favorites, The Associate, with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I've watched that.
Huh?
I've watched that movie.
Yeah, and in the very beginning, the gentleman had her doing the work, and we're gonna close this deal. And then he said, "Oh, you know, took her to the strip club, and we're gonna close the deal later on." And then when she came in to work the next day, Whoopi had done all the work, but he had done got the promotion that he had said was going to be hers. But you know, that's that competitive work friend of me. So when I started looking at the different types that there were, I was like, oh, okay, the first thing that came to my mind was the associate. That person at work that says we're helping you and we're a team, but secretly can't wait to stab you in the back and take all your ideas.
Now that you went to the movies, did you see, I'm sure you saw Working Girl with Melanie Griffith and Sigourney Weaver and Harrison Ford. You know, Working Girl, the movie.
Oh, Working Girl? I don't think I saw that, but I'm going to put that on my list. You need to watch
it. I think it came out in the late 80s or early 90s, where Melanie Griffith was just a rookie, an assistant, and she came up with this idea, and Sigourney Weaver presented it as hers.
Ah.
And there was an 11. You need to see it. You need to see it. It's called Walking Girl. It was an
Okay.
amazing. It was a blockbuster. But let's focus on inherited enemies.
Well,
Which is
we're
our
talking about the
topic.
different types of inherited enemies that you can. So competitive work ones, there's the jealous, there's one that's just out and out. And Reverend Pam, when you were talking about your secret undercover enemy, that I would assume that would be the passive aggressive frenemy.
Well, whatever they are, they are no longer, they don't no longer have access to me. It's like good riddance to bad rubbish.
There's the over-involved frenemy, the
But I
kind.
hold no grudges.
I don't hold grudges either. I was, like I said, I understand that there's a purpose in our friendship, and the enemy knows what it's supposed to be in years to come. And if he can short circuit you in year 3 or day 2 or year 10, you will never get to the end result and find out what the purpose and the
Exactly.
destiny is
And
supposed
this
to
thing
be.
also, Ambassador Lisa, we also have to thank our enemies, because whatever they do, the backstabbing or betrayal contributes to your thick skin and your growth. It makes you a better person. It's when those things happen, it's lessons learned, it's a teachable
Yes,
moment.
it is.
You learn from it and you move forward, and it protects you from maybe a bigger pit in the future.
You're supposed to learn from every situation, not count that situation off, write it off as, oh, well, this is what happened, and I'm never going to go that way again. Sometimes when I love Judge Judy, and when I watch her show at the end, when they're asking the people how they feel, they're always saying, I will never trust anyone ever again.
Oh,
And I
no.
will never loan anyone ever. And they're putting that one situation, they're letting that one situation.
Painting with a big brush.
Yes, they're painting with that very broad brush, and they're counting everyone off because one person did something to you. I always said, I'm going to allow you the opportunity to make your own mistakes and to hurt me yourself. I'm not going to take my past hurts and say everybody's going to do the same thing. So I put that big wall up, because when you put that big wall up,
yeah, that would be transferred aggression.
Yeah, you're keeping people out, but you're also keeping your heart in, and you miss out on the relationships that are supposed to come into your life. So we can't paint with a very broad brush. We got to use that little teeny brush that gets into those intimate little cracks, because if we use that broad one, it will wipe everyone out. We are almost at the top of the hour. Does anyone have a comment or a question they'd like to ask before we reach that 5 o'clock? Nia-san.
No, I don't have much to say.
You are so quiet.
Yeah, I know, because you're saying things which are in line with some of my thoughts, but I also say my friend's friend is my friend, but my enemy's friend does not have to be my enemy.
That's right.
I have to have a mind. I have to have a mind of my own and treat with the person as I see fit. Not.
Let me ask Nia-san a question.
Yes.
Nia-san.
Yes.
You were a celebrity. You are still a celebrity in Cameroon. One of the first Anglophone journalists that made waves in the French-speaking part of Cameroon. Everybody who grew up in Cameroon before the 90s knows you from radio, from television. I'm sure you experienced some kind of jealousy from either the French-speaking journalists or even your colleagues. Without naming names, have you ever been in a situation where somebody did not like you because of your progress in the media, or because they had a problem with somebody, one of your colleagues, and they wanted you to have problems with that colleagues?
Not that I know of, because I was like an open book. I never hid anything that I did from anybody. I was assistant editor-in-chief of Radio Cameroon, and my office was the center where all the journalists came to discuss their issues with the administration or with individuals. But I never personally kept things to myself to say, oh, that person doesn't like me, that person likes me. No, I never accepted that. I never tolerated that. I never let it go. If you had a difference with me, I talked to you there and then and told you it's off, it's out of my mind, I'm done with it. I don't see it as something that is going to infringe on my performance. I did my work as I learned how to do it, and I continue doing it like that way. If there are people who had things they felt bad about me, they felt bad about me for doing what I did, it is their business. I never went back to say, oh, you did this to me because I'm this. No. All I know is that as an English-speaking journalist, I was scared of my French-speaking colleagues because you never know where they could throw banana peelings at you. So
exactly.
you have to walk with your eyes wide open and your conscience clear. And that is the way I did. That is the way I performed. And whatever happened, I never said an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, it's not in my way. And
so you were alert, but you knew that there were enemies in the background, especially the French.
I knew that there were people who were not appreciating what I was doing.
Of course.
Yes, but I never cared about that. I only was cautious to be sure that I don't trip on any banana peelings.
So Lisa, do you have the anthem? You're muted.
It's muted. Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have it right here and ready. So we're going to take a minute to go to our anthem, which we always share at the top of the hour, and we will be back in a few minutes.
Oh my God, I just saw portmanteau.
I didn't know what the definition. Yes, go ahead. Okay, there you go.
Oh, Africa. Oh no. Africans, Africans for Africa. 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 Africans have many bright ideas. If only you let us share. If you really want to know my history, please come, sit down, listen to my story. God gave us a wisdom. He guides our footsteps, makes us shine and transform. Hey, as one people, with so many cultures, yet indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us all unite behind AfricaOnline Media Corporation. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. It's time to come together, promote awareness, progress, and solution. Hey. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. All Africans can rally for a common cause, to believe without judgment in what our brother does, to identify and resolve our challenges, to allow each other's ideas without regard to standards. As one people with so many cultures, yes indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Let us solve all the problems plaguing our continent. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us empower Africans in and out of Africa. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. AfricaOnline Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. They have all the resources we need to benefit our society. Oh. education for everyone. If we believe prosperity for Africans, if we believe medical facilitation for Africans, if we believe stand up, Africa, yes, for Africa. Africa Online Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Africa is the cradle of civilization, the motherland. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. We were enslaved not because we were weak, but because of our hospitality. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Jump on the Africa Online Miracle Jet, don't be left behind. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Together we shall succeed, together we will win. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. We are writing our own story, the truth, and we shall tell it to the world. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. No more lies, Africans own Africa.
No more lies. Africans own Africa. That is
That's
our
right.
theme, that is our anthem, and it is written by our very own CEO, Her Royal Highness, Reverend Dr. Pam.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. So, as a sequel to this topic today, we are going to be discussing your authentic self. And we're going to have a special guest here, Dr. Vivian Mondo. Tanto Mondo, Ambassador Lisa, you met her in New York. She was one of the speakers. She actually wrote a book called Embracing Your Authentic Self. So she'll be our speaker next Sunday. I think that will be a good sequel to this topic.
I think so as well.
All right. So, Rania, so you can do a last round. But Ambassador Lisa, you look really good. I'm glad the allergists allowed you to do the show.
Amen. Thank you. I stayed up all morning nursing myself just so I could be up for this
Awesome.
time.
Thank you.
Yes, please send me the name of the potential guests for next week. Yeah, please, thanks. That being said.
Oh, there she goes. Dr. Gloria, Miss Virginia Senior One.
Hi, Her Excellency. How you feeling?
Much better. I finally got over this cold. I'm better now. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I had my flu shot today. So the pharmacist, she told me that I look so pretty. And so to give me the flu shot, I had to obviously expose my arm. And I told her I want to take my right shoulder down. And I said, I'm 66 years old and I'm hoping someone will look. And she started laughing.
You are hilarious, Dr. Crossley. You say you are 66?
I am. Yes,
Oh
ma'am.
my God, you don't look it.
That's what she said. And she wanted to know the machine that I use on my face. And I thought I had my phone with me, but I had left it in my car. I was going to show it to her. But yeah, we became real good friends.
Awesome.
How are you, Ambassador Lisa, Prophetess Lisa?
I'm doing good. I'm battling some allergies.
Will soup help it? Soup? Will soup help it?
That's what Reverend Pam said. It's not a cold, they're allergies. It's allergic to the ragweed, the pollen.
No, when you go out, just wear a mask. It would
I've been wearing a mask for the majority of the week. Because my nose is running and I'm sniffing and blowing, and instead of people looking at me, I just put the mask on and stick tissue up my nostrils so I could get someplace. So I've been back in a mask this week.
Well, you know, Dr. Pam, she knows more than those medical doctors, that all pharmacists have to be highly trained and skilled. In fact, when I would ask my doctor questions, he would tell me to ask my pharmacist friends.
Wow.
Yeah, when it comes to medications, yes, we are the
Wow. That's
expert. We
interesting.
had to learn all kinds of stuff, especially chemistry,
It's the truth. It's the truth. Absolute truth.
for
And when
5 years.
I want to know something, I ask my pharmacist friends. And how are you, Professor Nia-san?
Well, I'm fine, and I was going to start asking you a question to wrap up today, but I'm doing fine, and I appreciate the fact that we talk about some of these things and end up realizing that the world is gradually becoming a place with people like that, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
That's true. That's true.
Nia-san, real quick, I just want to do a shout out to all the clergy for Pastors Appreciation Month or Clergy Appreciation Month this October. You know, and I know you said today is Do Something Nice Day, so let everybody do something nice.
Yes, so Dr. Crosslin, have your inherited enemies been? How are you treating them? Your wrap up.
So I can tell you three. I can tell you three examples. So with my ex-husband, he was so mean to me.
Wow.
That it's a type of abuse that, but other people in the support group, it was a picnic for me because the things that happened to them. That's why I never even bring anything up, because God has helped me to see that other people had it 10 times worse than me. So my experience has been a walk in the park. But I had got on my knees to pray with my Bible open, and I was getting ready to say, God, get that man. And you know, I mean, I was going to have the scriptures for it too. And God spoke to my heart. I heard him just as clear in my heart. He said, he loves that man. I said, what? And I'm like, you're not going to get him? And so God told me and showed me how he loves everybody the same.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. And I was like, oh my God. So now what do I do? Right? Because since God's not going to get him. And so then one of the young ladies, the pastor's daughter, white girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, she figures lemonade solves everything. You know, just give the person a glass of lemonade.
Oh my God.
And my mom, you know, as everyone knows, she was a fighter. I mean, she stood at the Supreme Court fighting for the rights of our nation, the Americans. And her favorite saying about getting along with other people is, if you keep stirring it up, and you know what we're talking about, that S word, if you keep stirring it up, it's just going to keep thinking even more. So I've always learned from those three experiences on Professor Nia-san on how to keep it moving. Thank you.
So what is your last word for today?
That's her last word.
That's my last word, sir.
Okay.
One more. And thank everyone globally, and Sister Debbie and all the regulars and all the keynote speakers for the whole year. Everybody be blessed.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie, if Debbie is still online,
we just lost her.
Is she there?
We just lost her.
I don't see her. Okay. Okay. Ambassador, prophetess.
Yes.
Your last word.
My last word on inherited enemies. You should have none.
Good.
Be woman enough, be man enough to develop your own relationships and have your own mind about certain situations. Because something happens between two people does not mean that you have to be dragged in to that situation. Again, God deals with the offender and the offendee. And as Reverend Pam said, my late pastor always said, there are three sides to every story. There's your side, their side, and then there's the truth. Wait on the truth. Don't get caught up in trying to discover what the truth is, especially when you have no business in that apple pie. Again, Africa Online is here every Sunday afternoon from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us, if not live in the Zoom room, then find us on Facebook and or YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share our page. We've got wonderful content and conversations that we have that benefit those on the continent and those of us here in the diaspora. Thank you, Nia-san. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Your Highness. Your last word. And
yeah, thank you so much. We've learned a lot as always. I just want to say this. Don't carry somebody else's monkey. Don't. And don't boycott any activity or event because somebody you don't like is going to that event. That is childish. And one last thing, unforgiveness is the biggest blessing blocker.
Yes, it is.
If you bear grudges with people, because you inherit other people's enemies, that's because you're bearing grudges, you are not going to succeed. You are not. You are hindering yourself, not the other person. And keep in mind, the perpetrator may have already made peace with God, and you are the one that's held bound, not them. So please follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Facebook. And we'll be here next week talking about your authentic self. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I appreciate everybody for coming. Please, let's make it a date. It will be the 12th of October. Thank you and have a great Sunday evening.